Good evening. The regular meeting of the Richmond Board of Education will come to order. Before we start our meeting today, I just have one announcement. Please join the board in a moment of silence for the innocent men, women, and children who lost their lives in an airplane, at the World Trade Center, at the Pentagon, and on the streets of New York on this day in 2001. For civil servants, firefighters, police officers, and military personnel who have dedicated and lost their lives protecting our safety, our freedom, and our democracy, and for the thousands of families and friends who were affected by this senseless tragedy. Thank you. Okay, let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sandy, please read our mission statement and take roll.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in a global community. Candace?
Here.
Deb?
Here.
Kelly?
Here.
Angela?
Here.
Danielle?
Here.
Margaret?
Here.
And myself. We have a quorum.
Thank you. At this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second or support?
Support.
There was one correction before I turn it over to Brian. In our minutes from the last meeting, in the public comment section, I had indicated that it said none, that I didn't receive any public comments or emails, and I did receive an email that I forwarded to Mr. Walmsley to address. Mr. Walmsley, anything you want to add?
I'll turn it over to Mr. Steele for the personnel report.
For resignations and retirements, we have Kathleen Campo, who resigned from the scheduled B position of esports coach. Derek Howell resigned as special education paraprofessional. Karen Cuckoo resigned as 4-year-old preschool teacher. Megan Gate resigned as ELA teacher at the high school. For new hires, we have Terry Askew, who is a former bus driver for us. She's returning as a bus driver. Ashley Borkowski, she is a GSRP lead teacher at Lee. Lori Capozzo is the floating assistant cook district-wide. I want to welcome them to Richmond. Notice of appointments, we have Jennifer Green, who was the preschool teacher. She's now the GSRP associate teacher. Beth Klein at Lee is the website and social media coordinator, Schedule B position. Rhonda LeGroy is geography B at Lee. Tim Langmesser is Greek club advisor at Richmond High School. And Stacy Wolak is the student and staff health and wellness chairperson at the high school.
Thank you. Mr. Walmsley, anything else?
And then there were no errors brought to our attention, or questions regarding the claims and accounts, I should say. And Tammy, I don't believe you received any questions, correct?
I did not.
Right. And then we'll make that correction for the minutes so that it's reflected appropriately.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just have a question. Brian, the teacher, the high school Spanish teacher, what's the status of that?
That position we had not filled. We had a candidate that we did interview, but at this point we don't have a position filled. All the students, they're either scheduled in with Mr. Yos or have opted for a virtual option, or will take Spanish at another time, another year in their cycle.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to Section 8B of the Michigan Open Meetings Act and upon the request of the student's parent and/or guardian, I move that the Board of Education go into closed session for the purpose of conducting a hearing to consider the discipline/reinstatement of a student whose identity is known as Student 112122.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will return back to open session when we're done with our closed. I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session.
Pursuant to Section 8B of the Michigan Open Meetings Act, I move we go into closed session for student 091123.
Do I have support?
Hearing.
Thank you. Do I have support?
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will be back after our session. Okay, we're going back into open session at 9:01. Our next item on our agenda is a presentation on instructional spotlight.
Hi.
Hello.
All right, so something fun and something new that we tried over the summer was to integrate the Teacher Toolbox, the summer workshop series. As you know, we have 4 days before our very first day of school where we host professional development for teachers, and we know that that week could be really hectic, and we know that the more prepared, the better. And so what we wanted to do is host some summer workshops and really try to drive home that it was professional development for Richmond teachers by Richmond teachers. And I sent out a proposal for teachers to see what kind of workshops they'd be interested in hosting over the summer, what kind of things they'd be interested in learning about. And so that was the feedback that we used to generate our map. And I remember giving you all flyers earlier, so now I'm just here to present on how that went. This was our choice board, so everything was completely optional. It was, you can see August 14th through the 17th. Teachers got to choose what kind of professional development would best suit their needs. And you can see there are different times, different dates, different topics. And obviously we have a new math curriculum, so there was a big focus as well. For our brand new teachers, we even had different pathways. So Mr. Thiel had these inside of his office as we were onboarding our new people, saying, hey, these courses really are best suited for if you're K-5 or if you're 6-12. So the teachers had a heads up as that this was available to them as they were signing on to Richmond, as well as like a pathway preference in case they were like, well, what do you recommend I take? So this was something that they could go ahead and join in on. So, some data, because I looked at it. 43% of REA staff attended a summer workshop. 89% of those teachers attended more than one session. So you can see, this was, I think, shocking too, that it wasn't just new teachers, even though we did have about 16 new teachers. We had around 24 returning teachers actually attend the workshops. So that's, very fascinating. So there was pretty equal amount of teachers that attended. So yeah, about 23 attended. There you go. All right, participation by school. Don't say it out loud, but think in your mind. Which teachers which building do you think had the most participation? And let's see if you're right.
Just cool.
Sorry, it's back. So yeah, we had around 13 teachers at Lee. The most participation was 17 at the middle school, and we had 9 teachers participate from the high school. So it was a pretty equal amount of teachers at all buildings being able to participate in the summer workshops. We did put out a survey, and here are just some of the results, some of the what they were able to talk about the survey, or as far as the workshops of how it went, their feedback on how it went. It's not very clear on this, but in your packet it is. As well as I have 3 letters from teachers as well in your backup packet, as well as how they, what their thoughts of the workshop were. So another data we had was, did you enjoy the options of courses available? So out of a 5-star rating, we ranked a 4.64. Majority, 75% of the teachers rating it a 5 out of 5-star ratings. Would you be interested in attending a summer workshop course in the future? Yeah, I got 10 yeses, 1 maybe. So that's always a good thing when they want to keep coming back for more. So, and then we just have some pictures of just some, some of the workshops, and had some posts. And then we did have a presenter that's here in the audience, so I'm going to invite Ms. Crampton up to share her experiences with hosting one of the workshops.
I was able to co-host with Ms. Starr. We went over School of G, plan book, the basics, really focused for the new teachers to get them going. I attended a couple different ones like analyzing the NWA, and then I also presented my own for Kagan structures on 612 and math. And it was nice because, one, it got us kind of talking and thinking about school before school actually started. I know it really helped those new teachers, onboarding them before they get overwhelmed with all the beginning of the year stuff. So that was really nice too. And it was just a great opportunity to learn so many things and refresh before we get back into the classroom.
Thank you.
So, out of total, we had an astounding 111 total sessions attended over just 4 days with our staff. So, amazing job to our teachers for wanting to continue learning.
Thank you. Very good. Are you going to just continue standing there for the next one?
Yeah, I sure am.
We're now going to do the district school improvement.
Okay. So, as you know, where do I begin? My KIP is a lot of fun. The continuous improvement plan. So the way that I structured it, and actually was highlighted too, is we had 2 different district improvement teams, one that was set for instruction, one that was set for student support. So we actually had, in our instruction team, we had ELA, social studies, science, and math. And what was neat is we had a representative from each high school, middle school, and lead. So sometimes we would do things building level, but we would actually do things K-12. So you have, you know, a high school English teacher talking with an elementary English teacher who's sitting there saying, what are we doing district-wide to address our scores, or what are some of the things for all of our core subjects, which was really neat. Our student support team consisted of teams of talking about attendance data, discipline, and our PBIS systems. Once again, there was a high school, middle school, and elementary rep at each of those to be able to really digest that data, to give us a plan and promote some strategies we could use. MyKIP is a multi-year continuous improvement plan structure. It is very different from previous district improvements or school improvements, where before the school improvement team used to feed into the district improvement team. Now it comes from district and filters into which schools are doing what strategies and what activities. And so there are different phases of the MyKIP process, such as your assessing needs, your planning, which was our year 1 focus, looking at everything, year 2, monitoring and adjusting your goals, and then your evaluation in year 3. So you can, does anybody have any questions so far? Please, I know you got this gigantic packet filled with all sorts of cool stuff and data. So our first part was the assess needs, going over everything. So we were required to have a student support goal entered into MyKIP by the end of this year. And so, I don't know, this is a fun fact, but what do you think is one of the biggest links to academic achievement?
Attendance.
Engagement.
Yeah.
Woo, she said it.
Good.
Engagement, student engagement. So we have 2 things. One, they need to be here.
She
They need
cheated.
to, she's down the plan. It is called student engagement. So we're dealing with how do we get students here. It's about promoting a positive climate and culture. It's about addressing attendance issues. It's about keeping them here, having disciplinary concerns, those type of things. It's also about engagement, not once they're actually here. What are they doing with the content? How are we making sure that even though they're here, that they're actually engaging with the content at that zone of proximal development, which we know is where they optimally learn. So those are the 2 pieces, and of course that goes with high-yielding instructional strategies, making sure that we have the best instructional practices going on, talking about staff professional development and so on. So you can see our first part of the MyKIP process, which was our assess needs process. The initial inventory analysis. Tell me if you have any questions over anything, so I'm just really just gonna, the good stuff, right? What I do like about my KIP is that they do have an initial initiative inventory analysis that we get to go into for year 2, which is really great. So we actually get to kind of dissect, okay, this strategy, was it the best fit for us? Was it necessary, did we have all the tools? Did we have the right professional development? Was it actually implemented with fidelity? So where was the actual breakdown if it wasn't successful? And then what are we doing well if it is showing success? So that's really neat that we get a look at that for each of the strategies. So creating our gap statement, we have varying levels of abilities with academic achievement and engagement with academics and extracurricular programs. That's another piece that a lot of people forget about student engagement. It's about engagement within our extracurricular and our athletic programs, about engaging every single child, making sure that they're invested here in the school system. So we analyzed our root cause. The district has a spectrum of learners in our district with varying academic abilities, interests, talents, behavior, attendance, relationships with staff and fellow students, and desire to be fully engaged in the educational process. So we have a mighty plan ahead of us. And if you have any questions on part 1 with the assessed needs, please let me know. So I'll get into the meat and potatoes of this, which is the planning phase. So for us, we wrote a SMART goal. By June 2026, Richmond Community Schools will increase high-impact instructional strategies, continue to expand course offerings, improve participation in student extracurricular clubs activities to increase student engagement rates as evidenced through attendance rates, discipline rates, failure proficiency rates, enrollment trends, walkthrough data, and perception surveys. And then you can see we have our end targets here, June 30th, 2026, with our quantitative and qualitative goals. And then you have your interim targets where that I just divided it by 3. So you have your goal to hit by the end of 2024, 2025, 2026. They're all incremental.
I have a question here.
Yes.
I don't see any targets for student proficiency. I see student growth.
Yes.
Do we have any student proficiency targets?
So
No.
quantitative data increased 30% for high quality instruction classroom data.
Okay, I'll just-
But this is just one aspect.
This is
of
just
And this
one
is
target.
just
Just
one,
one.
this is just the student
student-
support goal too. Because keep in mind, we have
Keep
a whole
going.
nother set of instruction that is going deeper into the 4 cores.
Okay.
So tonight was just about what we were required this year to also add, which is this piece of it. So it's
I didn't
not
want
the
to leave
4
achievement
cores.
out, because I 100% everything's
Well,
about
that, to me,
achievement.
that's one of
That's
the
the
most
big-
important.
Yes,
I mean, I love student growth, that's great, but if you're not proficient where you need to be, that's a struggle for you going forward, so.
Yep.
You're saying we might hit that next year, or the second, or later
next
in our
year,
plan?
we're required to do the student support goal this year.
Got it, okay,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
Create a challenge statement, so student engagement needs to increase. We want to see increased academic achievement, better attendance rates, decreased discipline rates, and overall health and climate and culture in the district. So once again, you see our interim targets, our end targets, and going into the meat and potatoes, which is our strategies. Keeping in mind that this is attached to the platform in which I write our state and federal programs. So kind of whatever strategies we input in this appears in that system, and so I have to be very broad and yet specific at the same time to making sure that these strategies show up as I'm writing these utilizing these other platforms. Identify strategy 1, competence, instruction, high quality classroom instruction. You can see that all the schools are going to be responsible. Identified strategy 2, positive behavior intervention systems and supports. Strategy 3, early warning intervention systems and monitoring systems. We really took a systems approach to intervention and structures as far as our attendance protocols, our discipline, and our student support meetings. Identify strategy 4 is staff professional development, staff training. And then you can see that it makes you identify different activities of what you're going to do with each of the strategies. So going into the strategy for high quality classroom instruction, our activity is doing classroom walkthroughs, the curriculum review cycle, K and cooperative learning, and implementation with fidelity, professional development for staff, positive behavior intervention system, our activities such as behavior interventions, promoting positive school climate and culture, continuing our systems approach, and early warning intervention systems and monitoring systems, promoting positive school culture, activity, responding to interventions, activity. It's really about, utilizing that database decision making. Strategy 4, staff training. Richmond provided professional development. We have instructional coaching. We have our curriculum and instruction professional development, which I do. Professional learning communities, summer workshops, which you just learned a little bit about, and our new teacher professional learning and mentor program here. Here I have to make in the strategy funding options what funding sources that these strategies and activities will come from. These are estimated costs over the lifetime of the strategy. So not just by 2026, but if we ever want to continue using cooperative learning strategies again, what is the estimated life cost analysis of the strategy? So you can see all that listed there. And you can see what funding sources that those will be funded through. And we do have a braiding of funding through those multiple grants. Plan for communication, obviously, we're presenting tonight. It'll be on our district website as well. And obviously utilized in staff meetings, talking about it during our student support meetings, and as well as building administrators talking about it with staff. And we're going to continue this in phase 2 for the district improvement team. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
So besides this one, we're also doing the academic
Yes, ma'am.
piece.
So we'll have 2 overarching goals. We will have the student support goal, which student engagement, and then you will have the academic goals, which will come next year. But we can't, it's a lot of different phases going on at the same time. So when I go into this dashboard, it'll show up that I have like 20 pending tasks. I'm just saying that it's a lot to do it.
So the only one required by the state
Was the student support
was
goal.
this one for this year.
Mhm.
Got it. Okay. I don't know if it's any better than what we used to do.
I like it. It's the first time I've seen one. I've seen an official, well, since I've been on the board, comprehensive school improvement plan like this. It's phenomenal work. I'm really excited. I knew I was missing some academics here somehow. I'm like, what?
But it's
everything,
still a
and
piece of it.
this
Yes.
will promote that next
Yes.
year's. I know for sure. I
Well,
really thank you
hopefully-
for all this work, Renee. This was amazing. I've been really wanting to see this.
Angela,
Thank you.
hopefully this will even affect this year.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, as we
Oh,
go
yes.
through and we're looking at attendance, or we're looking at engaging activities, they've all been through Kagan training and classroom instruction, so if we're seeing that in our walkthroughs, and things like that, this should have an effect on those
A question to maybe you,
academic.
Superintendent Wamsley, or whomever that, what about some elementary or even 5th, 6th grade athletics or anything like that in a sense? I don't feel we have a whole lot at that level. I don't know. I know we have some clubs and some summer things, but I know when I was in 3rd grade, I was 4th grade, I was playing basketball. So I know that they can at that age. I know some of the Catholic leagues around here even do at that age. So that could be, just,
Yes.
don't hesitate to call
Well,
Coach Trent.
One of the pieces of data we did analyze was the amount of extracurricular
Yes, I
and the
saw.
participation
Yes.
data for that. So very interesting.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice
Good work,
job.
yes.
Like to see that. Okay, next item on our agenda is our report on the 23-24 student parent handbook dress code. Mr. Walmsley?
Thank you. Just to kind of set the tone or the presentation of what happened to get us to this point. Ms. Era,
Did you want me to change it to HMI 1 for you?
No, pretty good. Ms. Staples had presented on August 14th a recommendation. At that time, between that one and the August 28th meeting, I had removed the dress code portion, and the handbook that was approved on the 28th was the current dress code, which is the first document that you have in your folder. The second document that you have is what was presented on the 14th, and the third document is what I'm presenting tonight, which is a revision or an update, if you will, of the one that was presented on August 14th. So how did I come to this document that's being presented? variety of aspects. One is take into consideration the comments and conversation that we've had as a collective group here at the table. Following our August 28th board meeting, I asked for teachers, volunteers to come and give their input on the dress code. You have the list in your packet of those that volunteered. Nobody who volunteered was turned away. We didn't have an overwhelming number, but we had teachers who did volunteer. Last week I had an opportunity to meet with high school students. It was a group that has kind of a free part in their schedule. Some volunteered to come out of classrooms, but to just get an input from them. So listening to what came out from that meeting with teachers and listening to the meeting with the students, also talking to the administrative team where they were at. They actually started this process back in June when we do our annual review of the student handbook, which got us to that presentation in August. Following all of this, I presented this document, there were some slight changes to it, to the administrative team last week. Say, okay, is there anything in here that number one, as the administrative team who are ultimately responsible for implementing this, that they could not live with? In each of the groups, there were people from this side and there were people from this side. My hope is that this is somewhat in the middle of trying to address everybody's concerns and so forth, and what they would like. It does leave some discretion with some in the classroom, and I'm going to go over that and explain that, to allow for, because this policy is K-12, and there as well as there are certain classrooms that, and again I'll go over the example that, hats or hoodies may not be allowed, but because of the nature of the class or the engagement. So let me start by, first of all, talking about the document that you have. Anything in blue underline is new language from the handbook that you adopted. Anything that's red with a line through it is language that would be removed as of August 28th. And anything that's black is existing language that was there. So the dress code policy talks about, the very first part is creating an environment that's conducive to the task of learning. That is our ultimate goal. Our goal is that the dress code does not disrupt the educational environment or interferes with maintaining a positive culture, or the health and safety and decency. We do stress, for these reasons, the primary responsibility for teaching appropriate dress rests with parents. Dress is a personal matter and reflects the tastes and habits of individuals and the whole. What I find acceptable to sending my child to school may not be what you find acceptable. And so that's, we wanted to recognize that it first starts with the parents. It also, as we elaborate furthermore, parents are expected to monitor the dress code of their kids' wear to school. Clothing worn at school should not disrupt the educational environment or impact student engagement. The final decision ultimately rests with the administrator. And I stress impact student engagement because if part of the activity in the classroom is I need to see kids' faces, wearing things that prevent that for that activity impacts engagement. So in some classes, the teacher may say, okay, you can't have a hat because I need to see your eyes. I need to see if it's clicking. Those who are in the teacher or have been a teacher kind of know body language kids give. You're reading that constantly to make sure that your kids are on task to be achieving what you want them to achieve. As you keep going through it, we talk about the educational environment. Fashion changes over time. It's not the intent of this dress code to try to keep up, because as soon as you put it in paper, there's a new trend out there. We want students to be individualistic. We want them to be able to express what their expression are. But again, we have to make sure that we're not disrupting the educational environment. In it, we do change the philosophy from if you violate the dress code, you will be removed, to giving students an opportunity to correct the dress code without discipline. If they choose not to correct it, or their subsequent followings, then that becomes a disciplinary action. Again, we're trying to teach and learn why it's appropriate or not appropriate to wear something. When you get to this bottom of the first page there, you'll see that the core values did not change from what was presented on August 15th. We want students to dress in style and their hair in a manner that expresses their individuality without fear of unnecessary discipline or body shaming. We want students to have the right to feel safe, valued, and respected. We want students to and staff to be responsible for managing their personal distraction. Students should not face unnecessary barriers to school. All that we've talked about on the 14th. I basically took the bullets of the last time and divided it into dress code requirements, because there's basically a series of 6 bullets there. Students in basic form must wear top, bottom, and footwear. The next part of this, the next 2 sentences, came from discussion with students and came from discussion with teachers. Midsections of the body must be reasonably covered. We had a lot of conversations on what type of clothing are out there. It's not our intention to that they have to be tucked in shirt, because most of our students, if you walked in this hallways, would not be allowed in school. But it's reasonably covered. And again, depending on your pant style, if you wear, as my daughter calls them, and I apologize if anybody takes offense, mom jeans that are higher, you might have a shorter top. If you wear the regular waist jeans at your waist, you might have a longer top. But it's reasonably covered. Bathing suits, bikinis, tube tops, bralettes are not appropriate dress for school. We had a conversation, this was part of the student conversation, we talked about this. Because if you just said bottom, so there was some guidance from the students that said, okay, they need examples of what is prohibited, if you will. Though it may seem like common sense to some people, and I say that because I'm trying not to instill my values on this. I'm trying to make sure this is inclusive for all students. Some people might need more descriptions. Student dress shouldn't contain pornographic, contain threats, or promote illegal or violent conduct, and was added from the 14th, or products. Student dress must not demonstrate hate group affiliation or hate speech. Student dress should not demonstrate gang affiliation or association. Student dress may not intentionally show private parts. What's defined here is what do we define as private parts. So private parts are defined as breast, pelvic area, reproductive organs, and buttocks. Student dress may not cover the student's face to the extent that the student is not identifiable. There's a difference between a hoodie up or a hat, and you can still see the face. That's more for a safety. We did add from the last one, from the last presentation on the 14th, sunglasses should not be worn in school buildings unless for a medical reason, transition lenses, or school spirit days. Sometimes they do summer beach days and kids wear sunglasses.
Brian, excuse me.
Oh,
Are we going to wait till you finish with everything and then have discussion, or do you want to discuss as we go? What does everybody want?
My plan was to give the big picture overview, but if you want to do it differently, we can do it.
No, I was just asking. Okay, thanks.
And again, we still left from the August 14th, the tire should be, that's worn for religious reasons is not subject to this policy. So then you'll see a series of strikeout, which is the old, they would call it the old language, or the existing dress code language. On page 3, the next bullet came from some of the students talked about this. They asked for kind of an okay to say for students in terms of dress code, and where a student might feel that someone's dress code or attire might be distracting or preventing them from learning. There's a process, though it's not an okay, a hotline or anything, but every student has the right, and it's spelled out, that if you feel that way, you have the right to notify the building administrator, and it will be our responsibility to look into it to see if there is a dress code violation. Again, the administrator's decision is final in that building. When you get to the next part, you talk about specific functions, and this is where we bring in athletics, we bring in clubs, because oftentimes they have a specific dress or uniform that they wear. So it might be the robotics team, the dress code, you need to wear your robotics shirt. It might be the We the People that goes to Washington, D.C. You need to dress up and be more of a business suit or business function. It might be sports. And just recognize that any participation in these organizations is voluntary. It's not a requirement of the revised school code, and that this is all voluntary. So those would be established by either the coach or the advisor ahead of time so everybody knows. The backpack language has been in the dress code. It just clarifies that we use cubbies for K-4 students and lockers for 5 through 8 or 5 through 12 students. It talks about that your size of your bag that you carry, could be a purse or so forth for those that carry purses. Should be about the size of a rectangle box. Large bulky purses or bags, we took out several iterations ago when we did the backpack. The next section talks about locker room dress and expectations. I've had many comments from our administrative team talking about this isn't necessarily addressed. If this was something that we want to add, maybe this might have been its own section. Listening to conversations that have occurred at this board table, listening to conversations that occurred as some examples when we talk with the students and the teachers and administrators. This all came trying to address the appropriate. Some might even say this would really belong in the syllabus of a gym teacher. You know, it could feasibly be there because there's nothing different in this expectation than a chemistry teacher putting their expectations about wearing baggy clothes when you're doing chemistry labs. There's a certain dress you need for that. But I opted to put in front of the board to address this and hopefully put this to rest. These are guidelines to make sure that everybody has a safe and respectful environment, and that includes an inclusiveness for all students. So these are general locker room attire or expectations. What is appropriate attire? Students should be wearing the appropriate attire for locker, whether it's a sweatpants, t-shirts, or tank top for physical education courses. For hygiene and for cleanliness, they should be in clean and good condition without offensive graphic. Now, if your kids are like mine, clean clothes sometimes just mean they grab them out of the clothes basket, put them. So we can't always guarantee they're going to be fresh, clean clothes that kids are wearing, but that's the expectation that they should be in clean and good condition. Footwear. Athletic shoes, non-marking soles should be worn in physical education. Number one, to prevent slipping and falling, to promote safety, but also it's better for the activity that you're doing than a flip-flop, if you will. Privacy. We deal with students of all ages and ranges of where they are developmentally. Students should be changing and dressing in discreet and respectful manners. Doesn't mean that our locker rooms are designed that there's a bench and lockers that they're designed to dress in front of others. But if you feel the anticipation or the expectation is that you're not unnecessarily exposing yourself to create an uncomfortable environment. Cleanliness, keeping the locker rooms cleaned up, disposing of trash properly, and maintaining the locker's cleanliness. Respect for others. Refraining from making negative comments about someone's student body, clothing, or appearance. Obviously, it's been in multiple areas of our policy, but bullying and harassment of any form are inappropriate and prohibited behaviors. Use of the towel. Towels should be used to cover up while changing or moving around the locker room. Use of lockers. Students should be using their lockers to store personal belongings, as said in multiple portions of this handbook. Personal belongings is the district is not responsible for. So if you're choosing to bring those personal belongings to the school, you need to make sure they're secure, whether it's in your locker or in the lockers in the gym. Time management talks about making sure you know how much time you have in that locker to be able to move you to the next area in your schedule. If you've only got 5 minutes between classes and you're given 5 minutes to change into your regular clothes, you need to make sure you're aware of that. Again, personal belongings such as cell phones and all that should be locked up and are secure. Last one is showering. People, because of hygiene and after physical activities, students are encouraged to take a shower. However, there's no mandate that you have to take a shower. Students are encouraged to report any concerns or instances of inappropriate behavior to school staff or administrators so that it can be looked into and addressed as appropriate. So this is the recommendation for the dress code section of the policy. It was my attempt to try to listen to everybody and try to come up with some middle ground. So with that, I'll take questions from anybody.
I'm not saying that I'm for or against any of this locker policy stuff, but I don't understand, A, why we even discussed it. I didn't realize that that was even the direction of the board to make one. And B, why it would be under the dress code section and not some other section.
Because
She's asking Mr. Walmsley the question.
This was conversation with the administrators as far as does it fit under dress code? And there were some that had concerns that this isn't a dress code.
Right. It's more like
So
behavior.
another section might be appropriate for this. I brought it in because we had conversations at some point by, I know Mrs. Cunningham had mentioned about locker room, that I don't know if it was the 14th or if it was back in June. What I tried to do is bring all the conversations that had anything to do with dress, what kids wear to school, what they do at school, and try to encompass it. So I took it upon myself to put this in there based on all of those, all that conversation. Again, I can't say this is the most appropriate spot for it in the handbook, but it then would outline, if you guys as a board do approve it, then it would outline expectations for students in the locker room.
And could we add it to like a different section, like the disciplinary, but maybe it wouldn't be this year, or like, or are you planning on us, when we vote on this, are we going to vote on this in 2 weeks and
Is it all or nothing?
notify everybody?
I guess.
So I guess where I'm at is, this is my revision to the board on the dress code. I'm hoping to leave here tonight saying, this we're good with. If the board is not good with this, that you let me know, and it's taken out. Because I will be presenting, if I don't hear any no's on anything, then I'll be presenting this next board meeting for approval as is. But if the consensus of the board is, we don't want this, or we don't need to identify, one of the conversations was private parts of being able to list them. If that's something the board doesn't want, then we would take it out as a collective. I just look at what's the consensus of the board on this.
Well, and I think it goes back to the issue that I had 2 weeks ago. This is where the conversation has to happen. And so to give Brian direction. And I don't, this whole locker room stuff just kind of really blew my mind, because I don't think it has anything to do with dress code. And forgive me sitting here at the table, but if I'm the only one that remembers it this way. Now, I know Candace, it has been an issue of yours since the whole transgender stuff that started last school year. But I don't remember anyone else sitting at this table saying that anything to do with locker room, because this is locker room behavior, in my opinion. I don't think it belongs in the dress code. And so I was just shocked that all of this was put in there, because I don't remember this board giving any direction that that's what we wanted to do. I'm not saying that there aren't things in here, but whatever you said something about, or I can't remember, it was just Brian that said it, a teacher syllabus, you said something about that. This is behavior. To me, it has nothing to do with the dress code. That's
But it's
just
all in
my
the same
thoughts.
handbook, right? It's all in the same handbook, you're just talking about, you don't want it in this area of the handbook.
I'm saying it doesn't belong in the dress code, and I don't remember anyone on this board us agreeing that the direction we wanted to go was to put locker room behavior
I
in the
love
dress
what they
code.
created with the locker room behavior, but I do agree, I don't necessarily think it goes into the dress code section.
And
I do feel it should maybe even be looked at for our athletic handbook. I don't know if we have something along. They have something along this already in there, so that's good to hear. So so if we decided, could we put that somewhere else? And if we did that, would we table that till next year, or would we still want to introduce that? I guess that's where I go. Or are you asking us right now to include all of it as a dress code update?
What's
Or
presented,
can we
what's
include
presented
it
is
in
yes.
two different, I guess?
If
amendments?
you as a board say that section you don't want in the dress code,
Can we make
then
it
I can take that out, and so the approval that you'll get will go up through the end of backpack.
And I
If you as
guess,
a
Angela, my thing to what you're saying, is it this board, not one individual, but it is this board that wants to look at locker room behavior.
Yes, I think it should be
Okay.
addressed.
And so there's two. So if that's the case, then to me, that's a whole completely different ballgame than what we're talking about dress code. And then, so if
I
that's the
agree, but
work
he's
we wanna
already
do,
done this work, and that's why I'm asking, is it possible, since we're already going to throw out something with the dress code anyway, and still put it in the conduct area? You know, can you take
Right,
it out and still put it in
What
its
does it
go
appropriate
into?
area?
What I'm saying is we are talking about dress code. The direction was that unhappy with the dress code. And so now we throw out locker room behavior. I'm not saying if you wanted at a future meeting to discuss and have a conversation around this board table, I don't have any problem with talking about that stuff. But I don't want it part of the dress code. I don't think it fits.
Okay,
That's
I would
just
argue
my
that-
this is in
opinion.
the student parent handbook.
I would
so-
argue that 1, 2, and 3 are considered part of a dress code. It's considered the gym or locker room dress code. The other ones, 4 through 11, you're correct, are more of a behavior type thing, but I would have to say that 1 through 3 could be considered locker room dress code behaviors. Privacy, yeah, just like it says,
You don't think that's behavior?
well, it's talking about privacy, and
Up here.
in the other one, it says that they need to cut private parts covered. So that kind of is exactly the same thing, privacy and
Okay.
private parts. So I believe 1, 2,
Try
and
to
3.
keep your private parts covered in a locker room. Let's all be honest with that.
Are there stalls in the locker room?
I would.
Are there bathroom stalls?
I would argue the point that.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
You don't have to argue anything. That's my opinion.
Right,
1, 2,
okay.
and 3 are considered.
Right, and I'm saying
Dress
that
code.
I would argue the point that I don't agree that
Okay.
that's correct.
That's fine.
And again, I don't know how we got here.
I'd like to
Well, I
talk
don't
about the
care,
regular.
but we're
dress.
here.
That's besides the
Right,
point.
we're here.
Right.
Okay.
Can we just talk about the regular dress code now?
No, because we haven't settled this.
Well, it's all part of it. That's at the end of it, actually.
No, we're talking about this. Let's be respectful when we're talking.
That's
And
the end part of the
we're-
dress code. We can go back to the top of the dress code and see if anybody has anything from the tip top to start with.
Or we could finish this
Whatever.
conversation.
Okay.
I really think the section that talks about the locker room should be in a syllabus. Every teacher has a syllabus. It lists what the rules are for that classroom, for what's going on, what's happening, what you can do, what you can wear, whatever. I don't see it in a handbook.
So every
But more
student that
than-
goes in the
yeah.
locker room has a
Gym
class
class?
that
Right.
is involved with the syllabus to the locker room.
I mean, we do
At
yoga.
least
we
at the
do-
high school, okay? I don't know about the middle school. We have PE there, you
But
know,
that's
so
saying that nobody can't go in the bathroom, or in the locker room just to use the bathroom if that's their closest thing.
we don't. Those locker rooms are locked up.
Okay, I don't know, I'm not a
But the
student.
athletics handbook has its own already for your.
That's fine. I'm
your
just
gym
saying,
teachers.
that's where I believe it should be. It's
And
just
it's
my
there.
opinion.
It's, I guess, in the athletic handbook,
It's my opinion.
but there's not.
The athletic handbook is designed for the teams,
For
the athletes,
That's not
not your gym
student
class.
teachers.
Okay.
You will only be using the locker room if you're in gym? No other students are allowed to use those locker rooms?
I mean, we've had students that we have had made accommodation because they don't have showers at home, so we let them go during to clean up, and nobody knows about it, but, or use washing machines, we've done, so, but traditionally, the locker rooms during the school day are for gym-type classes. It could be weightlifting, it could be dance, but a gym-type class.
Then if that's the case all around, then I would say, sure, put that in the syllabus if it's not open to all students where would have to address something like that.
And it's, am I correct, at the high school at least, I can say that they're locked when we're not using them. So if there's not a gym class 5th hour, which could be possible, that locker room is locked up.
Because there are certain areas that are supposed to be locked when there's no classes.
Supposed to. Goes back to your teachers.
I don't need to talk.
Usually before every gym class, the gym teacher will unlock it, and then I believe he locks when everyone goes in the gym, they'll unlock it, everyone go in, and then they lock it when we go back one class, and then the next class will repeating cycle for the rest of the day.
That's why I felt it should be in the syllabus.
Was that the case for the middle school as well, Mr. Wilson?
Middle school, I believe they use the gym every hour because we have 2 gym teachers there, so I believe every hour they're there. And the difference in the middle school is the locker rooms go into the gym, where the high school, you have to go down the hallway and go to the locker room. So the teacher's in the gym class in the middle school, watching kids going in and coming out. So there's always someone in that gym area, a teacher.
Plus their office is in the middle school locker room as well. Where Mr. Barnes' classroom is right next to Mr. Trent's office, where the gym is, right next to the most locker rooms, weight room.
I guess I don't understand what is wrong with having something like this. I guess I'd like to hear the reasoning behind why not to. Why not, why wouldn't we have a code of conduct for the locker room? I
Are you
was
going to
shocked we
have one
didn't,
for
to be honest with
every
you.
classroom? You're going to have a code of conduct for art? You're going to have a code of conduct for the band
But
room?
this is different, though. You have people taking clothes off together in a
In the
communal
band room,
area.
sometimes they're
It's
taking their
not,
clothes
you
off
know,
and their uniforms.
And there's not always going to be a coach in there with them. Is your coach in there or a gym teacher always in there with you? They're not. So they're going to be there unattended without a staff member. I feel there should be some rules
Well,
outlined.
we do already have a code of conduct. Like,
Yes, but it doesn't outline the locker room
No, it
behavior.
does not.
Again,
Behavior in general, it does.
But that's why it's a completely different
But
thing.
you do different things in a locker room than you do down a hallway or a
I
regular
understand.
classroom.
I understand that, but I guess what I'm saying is why do we have to have it separated? Like, it's still the same conduct. Like, you're talking about, like, just dressing and undressing. I mean, you have to dress and undress in a locker
But
room.
why not? There's nothing in the language that is offensive or gonna
Right,
harm
this isn't
anything. I
insulting.
don't
Yeah, I don't
understand.
This isn't hurting anyone.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I'm totally against this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't think it belongs in the dress code.
I think
That's what I'm
And
saying.
that's really.
I'm okay with
Is there-
I
revisiting
agree
this.
though with Kelly in a way,
Then
1, 2, and 3
we
might
can
fall.
add
I
it
think
to-
first and foremost, I like the syllabus idea. And if you want something to turn into code of conduct conversation, then that needs to go back and have them bring something, or are we able to say you want to put that into
Another section.
of the code of conduct? It's not dress code, that's all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
It's not dress code.
Yeah, if the board wants that section to be its own section in the handbook, then that would be the direction you give me, and I will come back to you on the 28th with 2 sections in the handbook.
I would prefer it that way.
That's fine. If it's in there and the students are reading it and they're signing off that they read, it's part of their book, their packet, then
No, they don't get it issued at all, they have to look it all up. So really, how many students are actually reading it?
We're more likely to read the syllabus and sign it.
Typically,
so
because
put it
the
in both.
teachers go over the syllabus every first day or second day. Would you not agree, Connor?
Yeah, we went over all syllabuses.
So then I guess there's the question, Brian. Is it, we say that it should be in a teacher syllabus. So are we saying in the phys ed class, it doesn't say this kind of stuff? I don't know, I guess I'd like to see the syllabus.
I'd have to look into that. I don't know that. We've never,
You just looked at
Can you,
I can look at it. I can,
no, I mean, bring that to,
Put Connor on the
because I
spot.
think that's something, if it's not,
I honestly, I cannot, I don't have a gym class this year.
Oh, you didn't have one this year,
No,
okay.
I had one last year and I don't remember if we had anything or not. I'm sure there's certain rules that Mr. Barnes would implement, Mr. Coach Day, but
Do you remember having to sign a syllabus?
yes, yeah, there is a syllabus.
The one that student has to sign.
I'm pretty
I
sure
will
I
say this,
glanced
I
at
don't
one.
think,
I'm just
I don't
not
think
sure.
I'm sorry, Counselor.
I'm just not sure if there's anything like that.
I'm pretty sure nothing like this was on there.
I'm sure there's
From what I
the
remember.
obvious
Yeah,
some
it's for the
line
middle
behavior,
school.
I'm not sure what impact.
This stuff.
Kind of
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't think we've ever directed a teacher this detail of what to put in a syllabus. We've given them the framework in terms of when are your tests, what are your expectations? There's outside classes like band, you gotta show up these performances outside. But I've never directed any staff to this level of detail in a syllabus.
Yeah, well, I think it's really detailed. But aren't there rules like in our class, or, you know, how to conduct with the tools, the different things in our, I know there's that kind of.
Yeah, the art teacher has put those in there, like when they're dealing with the kiln or stuff like that, yes, there's.
Right.
But as a district, we've never told them they've had to do it, it's just, like I said, the experts in that area, so they just know they need to let kids know and put it in there.
Because I know like in the science classes, when they have lab days, you got to wear the goggles. You have to wear this or that or whatever.
That's
So
in a syllabus.
That's in a syllabus.
The only thing I really, on the science is, because I have to report, you have goggles in your school, how many goggles is there enough for every child?
Right.
That's it. But I've never said you've had it as part of what they do in a science class, so I guess on this one, is the board's direction, you want this in a different section? Do you want me to bring it back and we have a different conversation on just this alone? Do you want me, I guess I will do whatever. If it wants to be its own section, then I will make it its own section when it comes back. If you don't want to approve it at this point, but you want it as a future conversation, then I'll bring it back as a future conversation.
What I would just like to see the gym syllabus. Just the gym teacher syllabus. I'd
That's
just
what
like
I
to
was
see what it
thinking.
says.
I was going to ask the same thing.
Just for safety, if the issue is safety stuff, then
Right.
what does that syllabus say on what's expected in both?
Brian, can you
middle school
also
and high school?
provide us with what does the district require in a syllabus? I know there's a doc. I'd like to know what's required, and then if you could get a sample of maybe the middle school, maybe the high school.
Jim?
We'll get it. Thank you, though.
All right, I will get samples of the middle school and high school gym syllabus, as well as what we require in syllabus from a district level.
And
So
then,
is the intent, you want me to take the locker room off of what would be approved, but bring it back with those items? As being its own section in the handbook?
I would prefer to see it its own section in the handbook. It's a code of conduct, period, for all students.
No, I don't disagree with that. I don't want it to say locker room expectations and dress. I would just leave it expectations as part of the code of conduct. But all I'm saying, if we're going to move this, we can still approve in 2 weeks a dress code portion and plopping that into the code of conduct.
we could.
I'm just asking.
The locker room? Yeah, you could approve and say, we're going to approve this, but these will be 2 sections in the handbook.
Yes, we're going to do the dress code and this part. And I was just saying for the syllabus, for me, that's just informational for the board. And maybe it becomes a conversation of what Deb asked, what's expected to go in the syllabus, and if there's safety concerns in the locker room, and if it's not included in a gym teacher syllabus, that might be something that we
We would
want to
address
address,
on that
right?
side. So Brian, so we're going to take it out, or we're going to move it to a new section?
Okay.
And leave the wording? Do we have any wording in that you would like to see changed?
In what?
We're looking just at
The
that
locker room section?
Is there anything in the locker room section that you would like to see Brian change, any wording?
I have to say, I'm glad that you added the cleanliness and just the respect in there, because from what I hear, there's a lot of damage going on in these locker rooms and thieving. And like you said here, locking things up, valuables, talking about that, I think that's huge.
But that language is in other parts of this
Right.
dress code already about
Right.
not bringing valuables to school.
But what are you looking for? The area, keep the locker room area clean, but and what if it doesn't happen? What's the,
Well, this is just what
What's
we
the point of
expect the
that?
child to
okay,
be respectful.
okay.
They think nobody's watching, I can be, probably this is more of a middle school thing, what I'm talking about, but.
They're still gonna do it. I think I went through about like 8 sticks of deodorant last year because every time my kids went to school, their deodorant was smashed in the middle school locker room and they didn't have anything. Every week I had to send them a
They
new
didn't
stick.
lock them up?
They were in lockers. I don't think they're allowed to have locks on their lockers, but I'm not sure exactly, but it was ridiculous.
And I heard-
Lockers every year.
This was in middle school.
I was gonna say, no, the high
So when we were
school.
in middle school, when we had, at least when we had Coach Ham, he assigned us a lock every year. Said, here's your lock, here's your common, lock your stuff
They
up.
never said anything about locks, so
Really?
I don't know.
So
Whatever.
on it, are you good with, I think Margaret, you said that, taking out and dress and just calling it a section, locker room expectations? And not having and dress? That would be the title.
I'd be fine with
I would be okay with that.
Okay. All right, then I will move forward with putting this as a separate section, and I will get to the other, so I'll email it to the board ahead of time.
that. I'd
when you're
just like
looking
to
for
see it.
Okay.
Okay, let's start back up at the top now.
Yes.
Way at the top, here we go. Okay, so we're looking at that first paragraph. Let's take it a paragraph at a time. Is there anything we'd like to see changed in there? Any wording? That first section that's in blue?
I'm actually just curious, I'm just looking for an example. What is students should not face unnecessary barriers to school attendance? How does that relate to a dress code? I'm
In the
honestly
past,
just stunned.
we would pull a student out to have them change.
Oh.
So
Or
that
make
meant-
them go home,
Or
you're
make
saying?
them go home to get a
Oh.
change of clothes. And that we're trying to, I believe we're trying to get rid of that.
So you're not gonna send them home if there's
If
a
they
detail,
violate
there's a
the
detail
dress
thing,
code?
okay.
Yeah.
Though the intent is the language, they first have an opportunity to correct it.
Yes, yeah,
And
okay.
then
I
if
just
they
didn't know what
choose
that
or
meant.
not to it, then yes, that could include sending them home. And sometimes, it happened the other day at the high school, but we have a different shirt, put on the shirt.
I used to maintain a box of all the shirts left over from homecoming, and I would pass them out. Didn't want them back. Okay, nothing else in that first paragraph? Okay, the second paragraph that starts, while fashion may change, is there any wording in the blue there that you'd like to see different? Okay, not hearing anything, go under the dress code core values. Is there anything in there that you would like to see changed, wording, or anything different or added? Okay, under dress code requirements, I think Brian said there's like 6 bullets. Number 1. Should there, are you
Where we
doing? Under the dress code requirements.
The bottom of
Margaret.
page
We're at top and a bottom.
Yeah, we're at
Okay,
top
where-
and bottom.
Okay.
Should there be, is it bathing suits, comma, bikinis, and is that different items? Just,
Yeah, it should
that's
be.
a grammar thing, I think. Just-
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Well, the definition of bathing suits that we were talking about that were not appropriate were bikini bathing suits and Speedos. Because you could have Bermuda short bathing suits that are shorts and you don't know necessarily
That is true.
if they're big. So when we had the conversation, basically when I asked, I think it was the kids that asked, okay, what's absolutely, you shouldn't be wearing to school? Bikinis and Speedos were the two
Because
that
they touched on that whole, the private part to me,
Yes.
when it came to just covering that.
But then you're saying they can't wear a bikini, but they could wear a one-piece?
Well, that's
I'm just
under-
curious.
That's a bathing suit.
Okay, well, he said there wasn't a comma there. That's why I'm
There wasn't,
asking.
so we can-
Okay,
we can
there is
put-
a comma
Let's
there.
put a comma.
just knowing
Then
the
it covers
challenge is
bathing
going to
suits,
be if
right.
someone
Okay.
wears
The
short
question was where the comma
bathing
was.
suits.
Yeah.
I think that would be okay then.
They could be shorts and we're not knowing they're a bathing
Yeah.
suit.
That's
Correct.
With the
fine.
body, with the whole bodysuit trend coming back, you could just pass it off as a bathing.
Well, that's fine, as long as you've got pants on over it.
Bodysuit? Yeah.
Okay,
So
any other?
you're good with
we're
adding a
good-
one-piece bathing suit to the list?
Or
Well, it
just,
is as long as you have that comma
just
there.
Or
put
with
bathing
comma,
suits,
got it.
comma,
Bathing suit,
commas.
comma, bikinis, then it covers it.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing else on that one? Okay, the next bullet about student dress may not be pornographic, da-da-da-da-da. Next one, hate group affiliation or use hate speech.
I want to know who determines what a hate group is.
Affiliation.
Who makes that
Administrator.
determination, and
It's
is
gonna
there a
be-
list?
Well, the
It's gonna be your
administrator says
It's gonna be
administrator.
Administration, it would be the start, and sure it's going to be a conversation that when we have it as an administrative team, that we're all on the same page, that is considered a hate group. There's no defined list as of today that I'm going to say these are the ones that are on the hate.
I just asked because there was a kid, and I can't remember what state he was from, that they tried to throw him out of school because he had the "Don't Tread on Me" with the snake and stuff on, as a patch on his backpack, along with like 10 other patches, and it was a big deal. So that's why I'm just curious on who determines what a hate group is, what it would be classified, who makes that determination, so, okay.
As of right now, it would be the administrator of the building, and knowing the team that we have, we're all doing a conference call and talking about, okay, is this, are we all on the same page that this is inappropriate for school?
Okay.
Okay, the next bullet is the student dress may not demonstrate gang association or affiliation. Questions?
I have a question on that, only because in the one that we got rid of, in that same thing, it was number 9, the same point that talked about deemed inappropriate, unsafe, or gang-related, it started off as clothing accessories such as chains. So are chains allowed now, or is that still going to be considered part of I don't consider it a gang association. I'm just curious if that's going to be considered in there, or chains are completely off the table now.
If a student wears chains as a belt or around it, if it's not interfering with the environment, the educational environment, or the learning.
Okay.
Now, if you have the big chains that are disrupting.
Right.
Yeah.
Just clarifying, because it was all in the
Yeah.
same
chain
Yeah.
belt type.
Yeah. Or,
Yeah, not a necklace chain.
no,
We're
but I'm
talking
thinking
about
like the
big
wallet
pocket.
chain
Yes.
and
Yes.
and stuff, that's what I'm thinking. It was grouped together before, and now, and it's not, so that's why I just wanted to clarify.
I'm just thinking if it's a gang association, there's probably more than just the chain itself. But
That would be subjective, wouldn't you think?
some of this is
Very-
gonna be
You're right,
subjective.
that's why I'm bringing it up.
What one thinks is gang related to someone else is not, it's just a
I
chain.
know, I know.
Okay,
Okay, are we good with it?
so far.
Okay, next one, the intentionally show private parts. Anybody have comments on
I
that?
do
one?
have comments. I don't understand why we have may not or intentionally. Shouldn't it just be students should not show private parts? Because even if they're unintentionally showing them, they should be dress coded and be made to change, correct? I don't know if it's just a grammar thing, or I don't know, for some reason that kind of,
The idea, the thought around this was that there could be a shirt someone wears that just as they're walking and carrying on there every day, they're not showing private parts. But if they bend over, they reach for something off the top of the shelf, they may unintentionally show something. That was the concept. Whether it's shirts, whether it's shorts, whether it's intended, when you come to school, your private parts are covered.
and so I guess at first I didn't quite get it, but I guess we've all backed over and had an issue. So I guess I can understand that from time to time when you're moving around. But still, if it's like,
Or if your pants
and
are
that's up
sagging
to
and
the
you bend
administrator
over.
again. Right, because
Yeah.
as long as it's not like, well, I'm not intentionally doing it, but we know that they know every time they walk a certain way or sit a certain way that it's,
It's gonna show or something.
Right, I guess that's what my concern is.
Can I ask why we felt the need to define private parts? I mean, reproductive organs, like girls' uterus are hanging out? I don't get it.
Because it was questioned last week on what a private part was, so that's why they defined it.
Okay, but I'm just asking.
Look, that's why.
Because we have kids K through 12 reading this material too. Let's remember,
So you
this is
think-
a
so
large
you think
target of
A
children.
kindergartner doesn't know what a private part is.
I don't think that they understand, yes, maybe not. And maybe not understand like to private part, like
Do
we
they know what a
said.
reproductive organ is?
No, but their parents can have the conversation with them at that moment, Margaret.
Okay.
And also remember, this handbook is not given to them, right? Even at the younger levels, it's all online.
Well,
Well, it's
kindergarten
online, but
certainly isn't reading
we
it.
provide
That's
hard
my
copies
point.
for anybody who requests a hard copy.
Okay, so
I
how many
just-
second graders, third graders, fourth graders are even
I
reading
just
this?
have a problem that private parts are defined, I think it's laughable. I think it's absolutely laughable that we're going to have that in our code of conduct.
Well,
Sorry.
you're right, it shouldn't have to be defined, but it was questioned last week, so that's why it was defined.
And they have had feedback from staff,
Yeah.
students, and administrators regarding it. And they said this will cover it all. That means I have something to fall back on when I got to tell my student, I'm dress coding
Don't
you
let
for
your
this.
uterus show.
No, but your buttocks is,
Okay.
so please cover it.
Okay.
And regarding that, this was one that was also, there were some that felt a need for describing, there were some that felt a need that we didn't need it. So,
We all have to compromise, to do what's best for everybody, I think. And I think this definitely clears it up. There is no question now what a private part is, according to our district at least.
I actually do question the breast part.
You don't think breasts are private parts?
Well, it depends on what part of it.
Well, you
Are you talking
should.
about the top part? Because then you should be dress coded.
Well, if you're vulgar and intentionally showing, I think it depends, and it's up to the administrator and the teacher and
I'm
that
fine with it being
environment.
up to the
That's fine.
administrator. I'm just saying, if you're asking me if I have any issues with any of the particular words defining it, that's one I do. But I mean, I'm fine with it, I guess.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I can see how that can be misconstrued, I guess, if we're trying to define what they are.
Well, I just hope between
I
our
go back-
teachers and our
just gonna
administrators,
say-
yeah.
Well, I would hope between them we wouldn't have to define what private parts are either.
But we have to clarify to the students, once we enforce
Right,
what's
so we
going
have
on.
to clarify that to the students, and don't we have to clarify what we mean by breast, students?
Yes, and you should try to cover your breast, cleavage, the top of your breast, maybe a little, you can even show a little bit of your midsection, it even says it, let's try to cover it. So we don't have girls coming in just a strip, covering the portions,
Or boys.
Or boys, exactly, or any of
Let's
us,
just
yes.
pick on the girls.
So, yeah.
Okay, any directions or change on that one for Mr. Walmsley? Are we leaving it as is? Okay, we're moving on. The next one, student dress may not cover the student's face, that whole line. Any comments or anything you'd like to change or add?
I just, no.
It was me, was it?
Go ahead.
You? I just have a thing about the sunglasses. You can't wear them except on spirit days, and I'm assuming it's safety, making sure you can see the kid's eyes, and if it goes back, if covering your face, that was the whole hood comment, a hat and everything. So if it's for safety, then it shouldn't even be allowed on a spirit day. Because if we gotta see them, we gotta know, then don't have that for a spirit day.
But it's a known spirit day, and we're all in it. It's just like hat day. We all do hats too, and we all know as teachers and administrators that that day, either be on high alert, or it might be a little distracted learning. That's a part of buying
Okay,
into it.
I'm just saying, it's either a safety issue or it isn't.
I didn't feel it was a safety issue. I thought it was student engagement.
Well, no, we had a
Yeah.
teacher who spoke last time and talked about.
Well, that was
the
that
safety.
teacher's opinion on the
Right,
reason.
so I'm just asking the sunglasses, and it says
Does
on
it-
school spirit days. My
But does it say
question
for
was-
safety in there? Is that what the language says?
No, she's
No,
thinking.
no,
I
I'm
think it's
asking,
because
because
it's
there was
to
the
know.
reason for sunglasses, you don't, because you want to see the kid's eyes, all of that. That's what I'm assuming,
yeah.
and so to me, that's safety. So if it's safety,
I think
Then
it's
it
more
should be
student
I
allowed
don't think it's
engagement.
safety. I would call it student engagement and knowing if your student is paying attention to you. or
They're
not.
sleeping behind the glasses.
Yeah, you could sleep, you could.
so on a spirit day, it's okay, because then we know they're not paying attention.
Just
No, they
like
do a
that,
lot.
'cause we're all,
It's
nobody's
not
paying attention
expensive.
during
Come
spirit
on,
days
you're
if you're a
Yes, yes, they
teacher.
are, yes, they are. They're still learning on spirit
I
days.
just,
Half the kids are sad 'cause they don't have spirit, kids that did show up in spirit.
Okay,
I am not in agreement, if this is insinuating that they can wear hats and hoods, I don't agree with that. I don't believe that that's appropriate attire for, and I know people are gonna disagree with me, that it doesn't matter what they wear. In my opinion, hats and hoods are not appropriate attire for the school environment.
And I think that you're absolutely 100% entitled to that opinion.
Okay,
But
thank you.
in somebody else's household, it may be.
Okay, I'm just
Consider
stating my
appropriate.
opinion, that's all. I didn't need a rebuttal. That's all.
I was just discussing it with you,
Okay.
Kelly.
I'm just stating my
That's it.
opinion.
Okay, I'm stating mine.
That was my next question too, is if we're, like, number 3 is in red, are we we're telling kids that they can wear hats to
Correct.
school on a daily basis, they can wear baseball hats to school on a daily basis?
Yes.
They
Yes.
can wear beanies to school, they can wear
Yes.
fedoras
Now,
or
can
whatever.
I,
Cowboy
can they
hats,
however
whatever,
say,
like-
I have a student that is continuously wearing a hat that is obstructing students from behind them, like, is that now a dress code violation? I guess
That would
that's,
go to clothing cannot disrupt the educational
Okay.
environment or impact engagement.
I just wanted to make
learning.
sure.
So if you have a hat that you can't cover, see your face, the teacher has every right to have them remove their hat so you can see the face in the classroom. That's where that comes in. That's the,
Okay.
I can't think of the word I'm looking for. I'm going to say loophole. That's not the word I want to look at and say, but the reason why you can have someone take off a hat or a hood.
So, as a teacher, I can come to school with a hat on because
This is student.
right, but the whole thing that Sandy reads at the beginning of the meeting is that we're trying to provide kids an education for their future and prepare them for the future. So we're telling them that they can go into their place of employment, wear a baseball cap like they're going to the ball game.
No, we're telling them they can wear it to school. That's not their place of employment.
So that
But
is actually.
school is preparing them for their future.
Yes, that's actually the
Yes.
point that I try to make too. And I've told my kids this, again, nobody has to agree with me, is my thing, I know, okay. I told my kids, I don't want to go to school. I don't care if you don't want to go to school. School is your job right now.
Yeah.
That is what you're supposed to do. I have a job, I go to work, I get paid. Your job is to go to school.
Yeah.
When you graduate, most places, I've had a lot of different jobs, okay? I've only worked in 2 jobs where I've actually been able to wear clothes, real clothes. I've worn a uniform in every other position. If you're not holding them to certain standards here, they're not gonna know how to survive in the real world. Again, that's my opinion, I don't need flat coming back at me.
That's what I've always.
I agree, we need to
asked my
hold them
students
to a high
as well.
standard, but I don't necessarily feel that a hat is an issue in a school. I feel like what a girl with a bad hair day, even a guy with a bad hair day, what if they are late or would miss out when they could have just thrown a baseball hat on and came and made it, and now they're learning in a seat instead of whatever else.
They learn to
To
get
me,
up 5
I
minutes
feel more
earlier.
to be comfortable and to learn, yes, I want you to be professional as well, but they're still students, you know,
We
I don't, I'm
survived.
not sure.
I just don't think.
We
yeah, but-
survived.
Yeah, but if you think about like if we go back to a long time ago, like when my mom went to school, like you had to wear a skirt. Like
Yeah.
we don't have
Correct.
to do that anymore, we evolve a little bit, but I just feel like it doesn't really matter what any of our opinions are on this board in regards to what's appropriate or not, whether a hat is appropriate or not. I mean, that's up to that particular individual, their family, they may have totally different ideas of what's appropriate.
Or they're a
for them.
farmer and they wear a hat every day. to
Exactly,
work.
right.
You're right,
Mr.
but this is our
Wombley,
building, and it is our business on when we're determining the ones that have the dress code.
I
So
don't think it's our
what they
business
do,
I don't think it's our business
that's
at
what
all
we're doing, that's what we're doing
Not
right
our
now, is we're
opinion.
talking about the dress code. So
Yeah, but you're
that
bringing
is our
in your
discussion.
personal
One at a time,
beliefs.
It's not a personal belief. You're right, it is a personal belief, just like it's a farmer's personal belief that they should wear a hat all the time, is what you're saying. So it is
why
my
are-
personal belief.
Right, exactly, and I don't feel like any one person's personal belief should override anybody else's, that's my point.
You're right, that's why there's 7 of us and we vote.
And,
Okay,
okay,
so,
so who, is there anybody else that is
Well,
not?
I just wanted to
Yeah.
say something, I know.
I just wanted to say, because coming into tonight, I loved this, because you went back, you asked some of the teachers, you asked some of the students, and you took all of our emails and calls and whatevers, and that's what this is a compiling of, and I love that you did that. So on that note, I'm gonna ask, what did the students say about hats? Because I feel like this might be
Well,
something.
you got one sitting right
Right
here.
here.
So why don't we ask?
and you got another one who's got a hat on back there. So,
Yeah, I was on the committee and we all agreed that being honest, I am one who wears a hat most of the days to school. And we agreed as a committee, I would say that it isn't a distraction to school. Unless it is outgoing, like
Sombreros.
Sombreros is the big one that they.
Or the ones that you squeeze the thing in there.
Yeah, and like certain winter hats and certain like cowboy hats and stuff like that. Stuff that's outgoing and that is a distraction to the class. But just wearing a baseball cap every day, we felt like it wasn't a distraction to the learning environment.
Did they
So
say
then-
anything? I'm sorry, go ahead.
So then we need to determine what hats are acceptable. Beanies, baseball hats, yeah, well, that's a religious thing. Because my kid has a cowboy hat, and I'll tell you, he'll want to wear it every single day.
Yeah, but if it obstructs other students'
That's what I was
learning,
gonna say.
then
I'm just saying,
And that
So-
could be,
that's from class to class, right?
and we thought that could be determined by
Or
the
Where they
teacher.
sit.
or
Right, and that's,
administrative.
I was just gonna say, the language does say that if the teacher feels like it is being disruptive to learning, they can tell them to remove it.
So a
Correct.
teacher, you can come in and have a classroom full of kids, and the teacher is not a proponent of hats, and she can say, all the kids have to take off their hats, and she will
And
have
then the administrator has the
administrations,
final.
and she will have administrators standing behind her because she doesn't feel that's appropriate in her classroom.
No, administrator would have the final decision, the way it reads.
Right, because it's, they're not violating the dress code.
The
I'm
question, the
asking,
question
I'm
was-
asking Mr. Walmsley a question.
the question would be, that would be asked is it disrupting the learning or your ability to have students engagement? And you can make the argument, based on the size of a hat, somewhere it's a cowboy hat, that it is disrupting the learning, because some people, if you're focused on the board and you may not have kids, and you sit typically in your seats, every classroom is different, because we have some that you can sit anywhere you want. You sit on the floor, but there are some classrooms you have to sit in your seat. So if it's disrupting the learning, then that would be the barometer that we would use to measure that.
And Deb, to answer your question, I agree with Angela, and the point that I made a few weeks ago when I said about the hat and the hood not upsetting the educational process, and sometimes if you're not feeling it, and it got turned into if the kid doesn't feel good, they shouldn't be coming to school. That wasn't the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make was sometimes you aren't feeling it. Whatever's going on at home, if you couldn't shower, whatever, you put the hat, there you go. That doesn't prohibit that kid from learning in your class. That's the point where I don't see the problem with hats and hoods. That's what I was trying to do.
Connor, I just wanted to ask you, did you guys ever talk about the hoods or hoodies at all?
And we kind of, that was kind of on the same basis as well. Like last year, if you're having that bad day, you can always put that, like, you can always put your hood up. And if it's becoming a constant, not distraction, but if you're constantly putting your hood up and maybe laying your head down and it's constant in the classroom, the teacher can have that one-on-one conversation with you. Hey, keep your hood down, keep engaged, and move forward.
Because that was why the language was added about and student engagement.
Yes.
Because if kids have their head down, so they're not engaged, and so that gives the reason to, or the validity to not have it on and focus on engaging.
I guess the other piece to this goes back to the very first paragraph where we say it's the parent's responsibility to determine their dress code for your kid. And, you know, if you're going to say no hats, then in your household, then that's what it is.
Well, if they're allowed to wear hats and everyone else is going to, I'll let them, but they know when they walk to the dinner table, that's the first thing that comes off their heads, because that's our house rules. But I also, so since we're talking about this and it's not listed anywhere else, I want to, outside clothing was left off of there too, so they can wear winter coats now?
There was a conversation, because the first draft of this dealt with jackets, and there was a section that I did have with jackets. We have some students defining jackets as part of their wardrobe. We have some students who are constantly cold, and so they want to wear a coat if they're, especially in the deep cold of the winter. So the temperature's set from 68 to 70. 68 on a -5 degree is very different than 68 on a 32-degree day. Just the feeling of it. But there's nothing prohibiting that here. Again, I'll go back to, is there a disruption to the education or the engagement? wearing a coat does that, then it's prohibited. And I will probably guarantee, I'm not a betting man, but I probably guarantee is whatever's published, within a week, we will have somebody testing the system.
Absolutely.
And that's what happens all the time. Regarding the hats, I guess the conversation we are on the hats that some of the administrators brought up is we have some students who come to school, meet the counselor or the social worker, they have a very good relationship. They got a bad haircut and they're embarrassed. And so a hat hides it. We have some kids that they can't afford to get a haircut because mom and dad didn't get paid for another week, so they have to wait and they're embarrassed. So part of that is helping them. Is it a lot? No. Is it a lot of our student population? At least we don't know about. But it's out there. So when we were talking about this conversation, we were looking at what are all the possibilities. Are we going to have the kid that tries to wear the sombrero down the hallway in high school? I bet you we will. And we're going to look at how is that distracting and disruptive. Because they're going to test the water. That's what kids do.
Okay, so the question is, that bullet, do we want any changes? Okay, moving on. Attendance warrant and observation. Any questions with that one? Okay, continuing down. We have any student who believes the part with the students can inform. I kind of like that.
And I would just say that that's nothing new, but it's putting it in writing for students that they know that they also have the ability to, okay, it's impeding on mine, we'll look into it and see on my education.
Okay, the next section talks about the extracurricular activities and requirements there. Any questions? Okay, the next one is the backpacks.
Now, I agree with no backpacks, but to piggyback a little bit on what Kelly was saying, I guess the outerwear and some of those oversized jackets, that concerns me, because some of them, there are so much storage and cargo and pockets in there. I mean, it's one thing if you're wearing a little windbreaker or something slender, but to wear a big jacket, you know, and I guess that would be a case-by-case maybe situation.
You can also have that, Angela, with like cargo pants that have all the pockets in.
That's true, yeah.
Except you could hide a lot more in a little jacket or a cap.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could.
Let's just be honest with that.
Okay, that's the whole thing. Anything else, any comments before we move on to our next agenda item?
I just want to confirm, the syllabus and all that, that's not the required, that's just for informational purposes that we're getting in 2 weeks, right? Okay.
I would like to email it to you as soon as I have it as a collective group, so you have it before that, so you can see it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walmsley. Okay, next item on our agenda is the Blue Devil Raves. Okay, who wants to start? Let's start with Danielle. I tried to change it up.
All right, so kind of a rave, I guess. So the second day of school, when we had all that random, or third day of school, we had the random downpour that happened at dismissal.
Yeah.
That was amazing, but what I thought was really funny, or I thought was great, was being at the kindergarten and first grade dismissal area. It was kind of a trifecta of comedy because the gate was locked, so the students couldn't come out the gate, which then they had to go to the new sidewalk, but it was pouring down rain, nobody had umbrellas, people were running everywhere and soaked. But I thought it was really cute as the kindergartners came out. Mrs. Lombard happened to have a giant umbrella, and it totally looked like a little mama duck with her ducklings. Every single kid from her class was under that umbrella with her, and one kind of got away and dropped something, and they all stopped, and they all waited for that kid to get back under, and it was just the cutest little thing. I took a video of it and sent it to her. because it was super cute, but I think that it just says a lot about the teachers in those first 2 days. They were, I mean, as kindergartners, they've never maybe been in a school before, and they have already formed those relationships with the kiddos to just, you know, the kids were trusting enough, and of course they didn't want to get wet, but it was just adorable to see the teamwork that they were all helping each other out to get out there dry.
Thank you. Sandy?
I do not have anything.
Angela?
Yes, I just would like to thank all the staff and students and everybody from Richmond that helped out for the weekend at Good Old Days for Richmond. It's one of my family's favorite time of the year, and to see so many faces from our district throughout all 4 days, because we were there all 4 days. And it was great. It was great to really see an awesome turnout and see so many people from our district, you know, participating and helping and just being a part of it. So I just want to send out a rave to that.
Thank you. Margaret?
Oh, I thought you were going that way around the
I'm
table. You threw me for a loop there.
sorry.
Okay, no, that's all right. Yes, I want to just acknowledge Preston Trent. Friday night, the 2003 football team was honored for their record, and that was just really cool. Seeing all those boys who are now grown men get honored, it was just a neat little tribute. And congrats to Connor and the football team. God, I love beating Algonac, so thank you, honey, that was great. And to our board members and the staff that came and walked with us in the parade yesterday, thank you. We had Mr. Knight, Ms. Morella, Ms. Sabo, Ms. Borwick, Ms. Manguni and her husband, Mr. Gibson, Ms. Gallagher, Ms. Rio. Cynthia was with us, Renee, and Sam McCarty, am I saying that
Correct.
correctly?
Yes.
Sam McCarty, and our 2 drivers,
Megan?
Megan,
Jennifer.
Jennifer, and of course, Mr. Walmsley. But it was fun yesterday. It was very humid, but it was fun, and it's just a great way to promote our school district. So thank you to those people.
Candace? Thank you, Margaret.
Yes, I agree with Margaret on the parade and everyone who helped and walked, and I thought it really showcased the collaboration that we have and just the positive spirit for our district. And yeah, that's it. It was,
Thank you. Kelly?
I just want to give a shout out to all the staff members that actually got in the dunk tank.
Oh, yes.
I heard it was awesome.
and cold.
Very great.
Cold. I heard the water was yellow.
Yep, we did hear that.
Everybody kind of took all of mine. I had the list like Margaret of all the people that walked in the parade with us on Sunday. I love the little kids who came out to hug Mrs. Manguni and yell at her, and there's my teacher. I can't tell you how many kids that came up and hugged me who graduated from here, and I could not think of their names. It's just really good. It shows what a community we have here. And it's a really good thing, and I do appreciate all the staff that showed up and again that participated throughout the weekend. There was a huge turnout, I know, for the little kids parade of our elementary staff. So I just, again, I just want to thank our staff because it's not something they needed to do, and they did it. Okay, next item. Okay, Connor, you're on.
Okay, starting off in the elementary school, all 5 GSRP classrooms are filling up fast. They have 72 to 80 spots left. The new outdoor playground received positive feedback from parents and families. They cannot wait to utilize it on a daily basis in the early childhood wing. Child care paperwork is coming in quickly. It's been a great start to the year in our child care room, as we are nearly fully staffed in both AM and PM classes. First week of school for preschool went very well. A lot of tears to start our year, but they are quickly turned to smiles not after long after entering the building. And then, last but not least, Mr. Gibson and Ms. Manguni had a blast being dunked by their students on Saturday at the Good Days Dunk Tank. For the middle school, on Monday and Thursday, middle school volleyball will have matches against Northbridge at home and at Elginak away. On Tuesday, middle school cross country is away at Elmont. On Thursday, middle school football is away at Yale. And then this week, our middle school students will have an opportunity to sign up for the Writers Club and our award-winning Green Club. And then NJHS and Web Club both begin this week, and they are off to an amazing start to start the school year. In high school, district-wide Blue Devil Night was a true success. Parents, students, and community members were able to tour the building to see the numerous bond updates, meet the staff, see the classrooms, and even have dinner in the high school cafeteria. It has been a very positive start to the 2023-2024 school year. Last week, the staff and students focused on a building-wide initiative to create positive relationships and build a classroom community using icebreakers and engagement strategies. Student government and class advisors are establishing meetings to prepare for homecoming week, which begins on Monday, September 25th. The new CTE ambulance has been purchased and wrapped and will be accessible for students in the EMT class to work from and with. It should also be seen out in the community as school events such as football games in the coming weeks. High school sports, after football, suffered a tough loss to Croslex 29-10 last week. They had a great comeback this week against Elginak and won 49-0. They improved to 2-1 and have a big game this week against Yale at home. Volleyball won in dominating fashion, going 3-0 at their home quad and beating Elmont by all 3 sets by double digits. They will play Armada tomorrow at 6:30 in Armada. Girls golf took second last week at Lutheran Northwest Open. They took fifth today at Emily City in their BWAC Open at Castle Creek Golf Course. And cross country had 4 top 10 finishers last week at the SD4 Invite. Boys finished first overall and girls finished second overall. Boys soccer is 0-4-2 after losing to Crossbow and Emily City in very close matches. And they tied Armada this afternoon 3-3. They will play Elmont on Wednesday. And then boys tennis is starting up BWAC play as they have they had a tennis match this afternoon against Armada, and then they have a match against Croswell tomorrow.
Thank you, Connor. Anybody have any questions for me? Okay, next item. Next item on our agenda is our superintendent and legislative update. Mr. Walmsley?
Kind of echoing what everybody said here, the start of the school year went off very positive and exciting. I'm delighted to report that our first week was nothing short of exceptional. I do want to thank our teachers, our staff, our students, our parents, just coming together to start the new year off on a positive note. Some highlights, if you had a chance to be here for the Blue Devil Nights, or if you had a chance to walk around our schools, I'm always amazed what our teachers can do in a very short time in putting their rooms together, and the decorations and welcome setting just sets a tone right off the bat that all students are welcomed here. From the learning that's even just taken place last week and starting today, from the engaging activities, even just trying to build that capacity. We've already run fire drills in some buildings, so the safety, we've implemented the final phase of the door locks and night shades this past summer, but just the commitment to making sure we're all safe. And I do have to give credit to our students and staff who show great responsibility in adhering to the guidelines to make sure that we're all following to ensure everybody's safe. As Connor's mentioned, extracurricular activities are underway. You'll soon start hearing about clubs and activities that will roll out. And I just can't thank our community enough for the turnout for Blue Devil Night was very impressive. I personally had a chance to talk to about 20 community members that go into all 3 buildings who were just amazed at what the bond did for our buildings. They were reminiscing what classrooms they used to be in, or they didn't have this gym when they went to school here, so it was a great night and a great event, so I thank everybody who participated in that. Just as a county level, we host the county school board meeting in October. If we could just meet afterwards, so pick a date if we could, between the 3 that volunteered to begin planning. Legislative updates, excuse me. In June, House Bill 4354 and 4355 were passed and sent to the governor's office. However, they've been, one of them's been sent back for reinstatement. This deals with the prohibited subjects of bargaining, because if they were signed as they went to the governor, they would actually do the opposite effect, and so they were trying to correct it. So House Bill 4354 and 4355 have been revised and are expected to go to the legislation through the process to get formally approved again, and then on to the governor where she's expected to sign. These bills repeal what was done several years ago under the Republican House and Senate and governor. Now we're at the Democrats, we got the other end. But it talked about teacher placement, layoff or recall, performance assessment, discharge and discipline, formatting, timing, and number of classroom observations, merit pay. Currently the board, you guys have a formula we adopted to give merit pay for highly effective and effective teachers. It also talks about notification to parents and guardians has been repealed or will be repealed. If you have an ineffective teacher, we don't have any ineffectives in Richmond, so we haven't had to notify them, but that's part of that repeal. Also repeals the privatization of non-instructional services in terms of it has to be negotiated. Again, none of this, once it goes into effect, it doesn't mean that the old language comes back. It means that we have to now bargain it if it becomes a subject that's brought up. Where previously, by law, we couldn't bargain the items.
So they crafted a bill, but it didn't say what they thought it was going to say, and it almost got approved. Is that what you just said?
I'll read exactly what was given to me. In June, when the House Bills 4354 and 4356 were passed and sent to the governor, conflicts were found between the two bills. This meant that if House Bill 4356 was signed, it would have to reinstate all the language that was recently repealed by Bill 4354, and only privatization would have stayed. So they crafted a bill that basically repealed what they undid. So last week the Senate requested that House Bill 4356 be brought back to them. They're amending the language. They have to do a recall vote again, and then they're planning on sending it back to the governor to clarify. But yes, they passed a bill that repealed what they just undid.
Okay. Thank you.
And then there's, in June, the House Education Committee unanimously approved House Bill 4671, which would repeal the requirement for schools to start before Labor Day unless they received a waiver. So basically, the bill was brought up for a vote last Wednesday. However, it was pulled at the last minute and there wasn't a vote. We anticipate the vote to go on. Basically what that would allow us is local school district would then be able to decide if you want to start before Labor Day and not have to file for a waiver from the state superintendent. With that, that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Our next item on our agenda is our interest from the board. Candace, we'll start with you. Any interest?
No, I just really was very pleased with what was presented in terms of the dress code tonight, and I again just want to point out that I feel like it was a really good collaboration, and I was happy that you went back and talked to the teachers, and I think even talking to the students too. I know you had mentioned that you were shocked that how many students hadn't actually read the dress code, but I think looking back, we might think that this was a good thing, and I'd like to see more collaboration in our future for when big things like that change that affect everybody. I think that I'm just happy with the results and happy with how we went about it. Maybe next time we could do that kind of front end.
I just want to clarify that when I had met the administrators in June, there was conversation with staff in their building, and they brought that back. So this was more of a formal process, but it did happen.
Okay, all set?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. Sandy?
So I was actually saving the part about the parade for this section, just because I just wanted to say I Was very impressed with the turnout. Every single administrator from every building, I think, was there. And I don't know that that's ever happened, so that was, that's awesome to see that much participation, and that also means that we don't have to run as hard.
Yes, it's easier.
Yeah, it seemed a lot easier to cover our ground. I'm also very impressed with you that you have that updated of information, because I was at the soccer game, and it didn't even end that much, you know, like within an hour of this board meeting, so.
Right, yeah,
You get a text message or something?
No, well, practice for us ended at 6, so we went back to
Oh.
practice, so it ended.
Gotcha. I also feel like that loss was really kind of stolen from us because of the ref, but hey, whatever. Anyways, that's it.
Thanks, Sandy. Next is Kelly.
Say Kelly.
Kelly. Sorry.
I just want to say something as a parent, I guess. The start of the year was kind of frustrating this year, and I don't know if that's just because we were moving into high school, and I understand things are different, but like the schedule not being sent home and no supply list, and I know there's one on the website, and it's so generic, it doesn't apply to any of my kids' classes, which I didn't even know what his classes were until a couple days before school. It just, I personally don't like having to go to social media to find everything, or websites to find everything. I spend my whole day working on a computer screen. The last thing I want to do when I go home is have to look up all that stuff. I'm one of those people that really appreciates papers being sent home and stuff, so it was a little frustrating for me, and that's my problem. I understand that. I just saying that.
I just want to say welcome to high school.
I feel so lost.
Angela?
I'm all set, thanks.
Danielle?
Thank you for reminding me, Kelly. No, I wanted to mention that, I know Connor mentioned the ambulance, and we saw it the other day on County Line in 27. My husband looked at me and said, "What in the heck?" So I had to explain, but that was a good conversation to have. But we saw it going south on County Line while we were coming back from Meyer. But and then the other thing I wanted to mention, I know it may be too early to discuss because it's only been a week, but I feel like the elementary parking lot, I hate the fact that it's much better. I have to say, it's better than it was in past years. However, the fact that there's only one in and only one out, I feel like is a problem, because those people that are in the back row closest to the main street have to then cut into the line, come all the way around to go out the other end, rather than just sneaking out in a quick right and turning left or right by the baseball fields there. I feel like it needs to allow that back lane to come out. I love the idea of the fact that the parking lot is a one-way. It's needed that for a long time, but it needs more. It needs 2 ins and 2 outs because it's causing so much congestion, and Preston's been out there seeing it every morning. So. And at the end of the day, and I know that there was a learning curve, so I figured I'd give it a week or so, and it is much quicker. I get out much quicker. I get down to Anchor Bay to pick up my older kids much faster than I did last year, but that coming out and leaving is a nightmare, especially if you're in that back lane not close to the school, because you have to go all the way back around, but you have to cut into the people who are coming in the parking lot, and those people don't want to give you time because they want to get their kid in or they want to pick up their kid, rather than letting you back in the line so you can get out at the other end.
I stay away from elementary school at that time.
It's much better, but
That's what I heard.
it's much better.
I like, Mrs. Manguni did on Facebook, she did a little thing, like a drive-through on how it worked, and I thought it was really cute. Margaret?
Just if board members remember a few months ago, the family that was here, the Smiths, their daughter had passed away, and it was the sign that got destroyed. I talked with Deb after I talked with the parents, and I want to thank Sandy. We kind of went around looking to make sure that the item was not somewhere in the building, and Brian and Preston and I met with Mr. Smith about 2 weeks or so ago, I think it was, and we've come to a really good conclusion with them. We're going to rededicate, put something up in the gym. We're going to do a little ceremony in the winter, I think is what we decided. So just a heads up, and that's what's going on, that we didn't forget about those people, that family. And when we get it all set, let them know, because I told him that the Board of Education would want to know when we were ready to do that for them.
So to add to that, so we're going to do a plaque similar to what we did for John Coker, or out on the archway. And that, as we talk about, that seems to become our now district standard of what we do when we have this type of situation, that it's more of a monument or a tribute plaque on it. So
I just want to thank Margaret for doing that. We did talk about it, and she felt very strong about working on it because she knew the people involved. So I want to thank you for taking care of it. I don't have any interest for the board. Okay, next item on our agenda is public comment. Since the last board meeting, I received one email from the public. This email was from the editor of the Macomb Daily regarding our policy on receiving board packets. I responded to the email after I had a discussion with Mr. Walmsley. He is also dealing with them in another format. And that's the only email I received. At this time, any member of the public may address the board. Please sign in and state your name. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments?
You don't need the timer. I just have a quick thought for you guys to think about. That's Rich. The teachers, we're short-staffed, and I noticed that you guys are going to rely on more of the teachers to do more work with your guys' new, well, if the teacher thinks it's wrong, for the hat, for the dress code. I think you guys may think about that, because we're already short-staffed, and we already have teachers that don't see everything. So think about your teachers, too, when you think of your dress code.
I believe we're short-staffed. Any other public comments? Okay, next item on our agenda is our action items. Okay, I'm looking for a motion for the approval of a board resolution for student 112122.
I motion that following the closed session student reinstatement hearing, that the board votes to reinstate student number 112122, consistent with the attached resolution.
Thank you. Any discussion?
was that Margaret?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion for the approval of board resolution for student 091123.
I motion that following a closed session student discipline hearing, the board votes to reinstate, suspend student 091123, consistent with the attached resolution.
Support.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Having no further business, the board will adjourn at 10:49.